the Eta Kappa Nu podcast, Career Conversations. My name is Amy Jones, and I'm a member of the HKN Alumni Committee, a group of engineers and computer scientists navigating our own career and sharing our conversations about work, life, family, and having it all. I'll be the host of today's episode. Our guest today is Dr. Marcus A. Huggins. Dr. Marcus Huggins is a native of St. Louis, Missouri. He completed his engineering studies at the University of Missouri-Rolla, where he received a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's and his doctorate in engineering management. He was one of the first African-American males to earn a PhD in this discipline from the university. Dr. Huggins has extensive experience in the STEM field with over 20 years of working in the industry. He's worked for a 3M company, AT&T Bell Laboratories, the Department of Justice, FBI, and Texas Instruments. Dr. Huggins also worked at UMR, which is now known as Missouri University of Science and Technology. He was the director of the Student Diversity and Academic Support Program. Under his leadership, S&T experienced unprecedented growth in the recruitment of underrepresented minority students in the areas of science and engineering. He is currently the executive director of client relations at GEM. At GEM, Dr. Huggins recruits and conducts graduate programming to encourage underrepresented minority students to pursue their graduate degrees in science, technology, engineering, and applied mathematics fields. Dr. Huggins has been the finance chair for IEEE-ITSC and was appointed to the IEEE-HKN editorial committee and our board of governors. Currently, Dr. Huggins resides in Dallas, Texas, with his wife, Melanie, and their daughter, Hannah, and son, Ellis. His motto is, if there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. If there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. If there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. If there is order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Amy. I had to pinch myself. I didn't know who that guy you were talking about. So I want to meet him one day.
Well, I happen to be talking to him today, so I'll let you know how it goes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, Marcus, one thing that struck me looking at your incredibly impressive resume really is how much of your career seems to have been driven by a desire to give back. Can you talk a little bit about what role your purpose has had in driving your career? And then, given your role now, how do you encourage others to live out that purpose as well?
Oh, thank you for that question. And growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, and throughout my life, I've made so many withdrawals from the local and STEM communities. I've had great mentors, Dr. Terrence Freeman, Louis Payne, Dr. Howard Collier, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Steve Watkins, who actually encouraged me to join HKN, as well as many of his other mentees. And those individuals played a pivotal role in investing in me. And so after making so many withdrawals from the STEM community, I felt like it was time for me to start making some deposits, particularly to those that were in my sphere of influence. And so that's really how I kind of got into this giving back role of what I do. And how do I encourage others to live out their purpose? I encourage everyone to find what they can do and what they would like to do without thinking about it. It's almost like taking your next breath. You don't have to think about breathing. It just happens. And so when you're operating in your purpose, it's natural. And when you, I give you, for instance, my son, he really likes making music. He's a creative and he really likes producing music. He can stay in his room for 24 hours, and just up there, just creating and having the time of his life. Won't even come down to eat. That's his passion and his purpose. But he also likes to play video games like probably many other 17, 18-year-olds. And he would do that for 24 hours, but that's probably not his purpose. And so sometimes you have to differentiate what your purpose is something that's actually something outside of you, as opposed to just your hobby, is just something that's that you just enjoy doing. And I would be remiss to say that also when I'm talking with undergraduates and even sometimes master's students, I like to spend time with them, encouraging them to pursue their PhD. It's my life's purpose. That's really what I do. Because even while I'm talking with someone, if we spend any amount of time talking, it's going to transition into them reaching their fullest potential through a graduate degree. And so that's kind of how I found my purpose, is helping others find their own purpose.
So, can I ask, how did you decide on engineering management for your master's and your PhD studies after doing electrical engineering as an undergraduate? Did you
Oh,
consider electrical engineering as your path forward?
absolutely, I did, and actually, it was kind of serendipitous because my one of the mentors I mentioned, Louis Payne, he was actually a graduate student while I was starting my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. He helped me literally craft every class I needed to take from my freshman year to my senior year, and he helped me orchestrate all the classes so that they would all kind of fall in line. Helped me also select various professors and all of that. Well, while he was doing that, he was working on a master's in engineering management. And so, and unfortunately, tragically, he passed away driving back between St. Louis and Rolla. And for me, I wanted to help him finish that degree.
Mhm.
And so I transitioned to injury management for to finish that master's for him. And then once I started that master's, um, I enjoyed it. So I look for a way, because I am a EE. Even though sometimes they say I went to the dark side, but I am an electrical engineer. So that's when I tied in with Dr. Watkins, and he said, I'll bring you back over. And we actually developed a course for his Fourier optics class. And so that's how I was able to marry um, my transition from electrical engineering to engineering management, but still stay technical, because we actually developed a electromagnetics online course prior to all the things that we do now with University of Phoenix and all of that. Dr. Watkins and I were kind of on the cutting edge of doing that instruction, asynchronous instruction. And Jefferson City. He had class in Jefferson City and St. Louis, and also there at Rolla. So we did a lot of traveling on the road. Took our show on the road, but that's kind of how I made that transition. One, because my mentor. Then two, once I found that I could still be as technical as I wanted to, even operating an engineering management degree, I was all in. And so that's kind of how that happened.
There's two things that really struck me in your explanation. First and foremost, as also a graduate of Rolla, I have to echo your shout out to Dr. Collier and Dr. Watkins, who are absolutely incredible advocates for the students that they work with. So how fortunate we all are to have such giants in the field supporting us. But the second thing that really struck me is how tactical some of your mentors are with you. From Lewis, who is really working with you on, like, here are the classes that you need to take and when, to Dr. Watkins actually crafting a course that helps you maintain both aspects of your goal. That's something that we don't often think about when we talk about mentoring. We think about it as very lofty career goal type things. So when you work with students now, is that something that you take with you when you work with them?
Oh, absolutely. For everyone, every student that I interact with, I let them know that your goal is to get me. But once you have me, I am 100% yours. So that's why we set up time, because I am fully engaged. Because, as I mentioned earlier, because of all the withdrawals that I took from Dr. Collier and Dr. Watkins and all those individuals that helped me along the way, they always made time for me. I never felt like it's like, okay, you got to go, you got to go. No, it was always, um, if you need me, I'm here. And so now I have that same kind of approach with the students that I also mentor, and just help along the way, because life's too short to make all the mistakes. So Sometimes, sometimes you gotta let somebody kind of help you navigate some of the pitfalls that are bound to come.
Absolutely. So, when you start working with a new student, it seems like what you said earlier about really leaning into your purpose being something that's very natural to you, as easy as breathing. So, how can an individual uncover kind of those core values that helps them align their goals with that purpose? What really matters to them?
Oh, that's great. Core values. When I think about core values, I always think about what we call non-negotiables. It's something that it's what drives you. It's your ethics. It's what's your North Star, if you will. And so when I think about core values, and also I just love HKN and our ideals like character, attitude, scholarship. Using the HKN ideals can help you guide your core values. Also, working with HKN members, um, they can keep you really motivated around your core values because we all exhibit those ideals. Now, here's the thing that I like to point out to, particularly my um, HKN students and also the younger professionals as you're going through this. Remember, you're going to be a different person than when you were 23, 24, 25, than you are when you're 33, 34, 35. And then when you're 43, 43, 45. So there's going to be different things that are going to be happening in your life. You may have a different job. You may have your family may be growing. There may be a lot of different things in your life. So I want you to always remember that there's going to be different ways that you're going to approach different things in parts of your life. However, your core values will probably not change that much, if at all. But as you have the twists and turns that everyone typically has as they're navigating their career, they will have these mentors that will kind of sit alongside you and help you walk through it. So I always tell students, find you some good mentors and also find some good peers. And then finally find you some good mentees, because as you're learning these skills and core values, you'll be able to then pour those back into others so that they don't have to make the mistakes that you did. So it's really like a full circle, and you should approach your STEM career kind of like a team. And your team of advisors and coaches are there to kind of call in the plays. Your peers are there on the field with you, helping you navigate through those challenging times. And then you have your mentees that you're now saying, okay, now that you're going down this road, now you're actually to pour into them so that they can not have to go through some of the things that ultimately would happen in the future.
I think that's a really beautiful way of thinking about self-reflection and also maintaining a growth mindset.
Mhm.
As a woman, as I've grown and through my career and become a mother, I really struggled with what I felt was a loss of ambition when I had my kids, because all of a sudden it didn't seem quite so important to be jet setting around the world doing work. Um, and you're right that it's peers and it's mentors that really help us to stay in touch with those things that are really non-negotiables for us. And that's really, I think, key for keeping us active and engaged and growing throughout the course of a long, long, lifelong career.
Absolutely. I 100% believe that you hit the nail on the head. And I'm sure that you are, as you look back and think about that individual that left Rolla years ago is not the same individual that you are today, because you
Oh,
just
thank goodness.
yes, but and I am not either. And but I do know that because I as I transferred through Rolla, that was the pivotal changing point for my life, because I met so many influential people that now has allowed me to build a foundation to go out and do something in the world that I was totally prepared when I left that institution. A little plug for S&T, but but I definitely was fully prepared when I left.
Shout out to S&T. We'll see if we can get some sponsorship dollars for this
There
podcast.
we go. There we go.
Speaking of those transitions and really moving forward, when I look at your career, it seems like it has really two distinct halves, starting in working in industry and then moving over to now where you're focusing on supporting underrepresented students in establishing themselves in their careers. Can you talk me through how you decided to make that transition?
Wow. Yeah. You're gonna make me live that again, huh? But seriously, as I mentioned earlier, I made several withdrawals from my mentors and coaches and advisors. And I was working in high tech. So when I was working in Texas Instruments, I felt like I was only really serving myself. Um, I know I wasn't, but that's kind of how I felt. And the reason I felt that heavy weight is because I knew all of the individuals that invested in me. So while I was working at TI, I tried to find so many other ways that I could have outlets. So I started volunteering in the local elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, even the universities. And I would go and talk to these individuals about the importance of a STEM career. Um, because of that, that's really kind of was my jump start into, really giving back into the community. But then my mentors, I would ask them all the time. I said, well, how can I repay you? Because, you didn't have to spend hours and years investing in me. How can I repay you for that? And they would say, well, you can't. But what you can do is pay it forward to those that are
Mhm.
coming behind you. And so I spent the last 20 plus years trying to do exactly that. I've been trying to help individuals reach their fullest potential. It started with me, even after I started doing the mentoring in the schools, I then started teaching at the local community college. And that's when the bug really bit. I was like, I really want students. And so after teaching almost 2 years at the local community college, I looked for a way that I could get back into academia. So I actually went back to S&T, as we mentioned earlier in my bio, and I ran the student diversity programs for 2 years with the idea that I was going to become a faculty member. And my mom would always say to me, and she would chuckle, and she would say, "If you want to make the Lord laugh, tell him your plans." and so and so I knew I was going to become a faculty member at S&T, and that did not happen. So after 2 years of my family being in Texas and me being in Raleigh, and a baby on the way, a second baby on the way. So I was like, yeah, it's I knew I was doing my dream job. I was having the time of my life in Raleigh, but I needed to get back with my family. And so I actually am a product of the GYM program, the National GYM Consortium. And they invited me to come to the 30th anniversary in Chicago. And I did a workshop, and students were lined up around the room to, talk with me about my experiences. And so at that time, the executive director at the time asked me if I could come and work with them because I had my family spread out over county lines. So I said yes. And so I ended up putting the same clothes and everything that I had in my car the 2 years earlier, put it back in there and moved back into my home. And that was 18 years ago last week. And so I've had the privilege and honor to be able to invest in thousands of students over the last 18 years, helping them reach their fullest potential. And so there was a lot that happened in between all of that. But the key thing that I will say is that my focus was always on you've taken so much, so you're required to give back. And so there's an adage that I always like to say, to whom much is given, much is required. And so
Mhm.
it's so, I mean, I won't say it was a burden, but it was definitely something that I felt strongly about is giving back to individuals because I took so much from the community.
I've heard that sentiment echoed so much by people that we've been fortunate enough to talk to, especially on this podcast. when we think about all of the cool things that we get to do because of engineering, both, in our day jobs, in mentoring and volunteering, even in just the financial stability that a career in engineering can offer for people, it really strikes me again and again how fortunate we all are and how much of an obligation we have to make sure that this career, this problem solving, this mission really gets that so many people get the opportunity to experience that.
Absolutely. And I'll add you, I'll give you one other thing. When you find your passion, you find your passions on Saturday. Why do I say that? Because if it wakes you up on the day that you're off, that's your passion. That's what you probably are getting really close to finding what you really want to do. Because sometimes we do the things we have to do because it's a means to an end. But when you do something just because it wakes you up and you get kind of bubbly and giddy inside and you're driven to do it, whether you get paid or not, that's when you're getting closer to your purpose and your passion.
100%. That passion is incredibly motivating. But we also know, just based on your own story, it took you 20 years to get to a point where you really had that passion as a day job. How do you stay motivated when you're encountering obstacles? And then, maybe more specifically for our listeners, are there common obstacles that you see people encountering once they start pursuing these goals?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So to answer your question about how you stay motivated through obstacles or when you encounter obstacles, it's very simple for me. Go help someone that's less fortunate. Um, it will show you one reason you do that. It'll show you that it could always be worse. That's why I always help individuals because it can what you're dealing with may be feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't get through this. But when you find someone that's having a either harder problem or a harder obstacle, and you're helping them through that, it's like, oh wow, it's not that bad. I'll give you something. There was a man that complained that he didn't have any shoes, until he saw someone that didn't have any feet.
Mm.
So things get I guess the adage I want to say is that things could always be worse. So always try to pour into other individuals. And also while you're helping someone with their problem, they may even give you a solution to your problem. So, that helping individuals is kind of a full circle moment for me. But also looking at some of the common obstacles that people encounter when when they're actually going and pursuing their goals. Um, Typically, because we're HKN, a lot of us are self-starters. A lot of us are overachievers. A lot of us are, we're rock stars and all of that because we kind of we're all that. I mean, just say that. HKN, we're all that. I can say that because I'm talking to the community. So y'all are all that. So I will say that. However, you need to have a community, as I mentioned earlier before, a community of advisors, mentors, coaches, and also peers, because I call STEM a team sport. I grew up playing football, baseball, and basketball, and everyone on my team, everyone had their individual role, but we all had to go to a common goal, which was to win the game. And so when you're going through your career, you may have your piece that you're working on a project, or you may be doing things that are are helping the team move forward, but you always have to continue to come back to that team spirit, because that team spirit will ultimately propel you through your career. I'll give you one last, for instance. I used to lift weights a lot, and if I really wanted to lift the heavy weights, I would have to have what we call a spotter because it's just safe for safety reasons and nothing else. And so having that spotter allows you to go above and beyond. So I incorporated that while I was at S&T or UMR. When I always had my team there. When I went to Texas Instruments, I had my core engineers that I work with. That was my team, because first of all, it's fun when you're working with a team, and second of all, there will be hard times where you want to throw in the towel, but then your team will come alongside you and say, no, we're going to keep pushing so we can win this game or we can win at this project. And so those are the kind of things that I've always tried to incorporate, that I learned very early on when I was a kid playing those team sports. I always wanted to be a part of a team.
Oh, 100%. I think that's one of the best things that comes out of an engineering degree is really the understanding that nobody is an island and nobody can really do all of this alone. And I think as we move forward into our careers, we kind of continue to see that, whether it's in industry or if we're trying to solve bigger societal problems, we really need everybody's hand on the ball. We need everybody's perspective because the problems that we're trying to solve are really, really hard and really challenging. And they're bigger than any one of us has any hope of tackling.
Absolutely, 100%. I totally agree with you.
So I want to just focus in a little bit on action here. You've spent so much of your career working to increase the representation of minority students within the STEM fields. Are there actions that you recommend that our HKN students, our young professionals can take in order to support our colleagues who may have had a more difficult path towards success than some of us?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, this kind of folds right into what we were talking about earlier about teaming and working as teams. I always say to build a team, a diverse team. Because as you're working as a team on a team, one, you'll learn how to individually bring your own talents to the table, but also you'll learn how to fold your talents into that team network. And research says, not me, but research says that diverse groups outperform their homogeneous counterparts. And so if we
100%.
so if we really want to build a best product or best service or best whatever, it behooves us to have a diverse team. And so as I have been spending time working with underrepresented students to reach their fullest potential, obviously getting their master's and PhDs in STEM. The goal of that is because I want to, maybe have a house that will pick up and go somewhere one day, and it not just, or they'll be solving problems that that we haven't even thought about right now, and because you have all these diverse perspectives, it will allow individuals to come up with better and products longer that we that we haven't thought about. So yeah, I honestly believe that the more we work with folks that are less like us, it just it provides us better everything in the long term.
If we want to live in the Star Trek universe,
Yes,
we have to bring enough people in to build all the cool replicators and everything like that.
Beam me up, beam me up.
So let's talk a little bit about that success. Dr. Huggins, how do you celebrate success?
You're gonna think this is funny. Well, maybe you won't think this is funny, but I'm smiling because my celebration is called the shake of the day.
Okay.
Shake of the day. So let me tell you a little bit about the shake of the day. So when I was going through getting my PhD, we would always celebrate if there was something that we did significant that day. And I love milkshakes, particularly strawberry milkshakes. And I would go to Steak and Shake right there on 63.
I know just the one.
And I would love that whipped cream and that cherry. And I dreamt of that. The only way I could get that shake of the day is that I wrote a chapter in my literature review, or I actually successfully finished an experiment, or I helped someone else with their research that helped move them forward. There was something that had to be of significance in order to get the shake of the day. And so having those different types of wins, whether they're big or small, that was how I celebrated my success, was because I really enjoy milkshakes, but I also enjoyed more so accomplishing something and that was my motivator that got me there. And so that's really, I mean, a lot of us work hard on really, really tough problems, but while you're doing that, you also got to celebrate some of the fruits of your labor. And so that was the way that I did that as an undergraduate. Now, again, when you think about rest and relaxation and things of that nature, that will look different to everyone that is listening to my voice. Some of you may want to take a trip around the world. You know, that might be something that is of interest to you. Some of you may just want to go into your wood shop and do woodworking. Some of you might just want to do a staycation and just binge on Netflix. It doesn't matter, but success may look different, but it's something that we all need to do, though. It's important. I think that you should do it at least twice a year, where you can recharge your batteries and just kind of, reflect on kind of how things are going. But yeah, that's how I really celebrate success. It's the shake of the day.
I really love that. I mean, not just because I too have enjoyed a strawberry milkshake at that Steak and Shake a couple of times, but also just something, it feels really rewarding to have something really concrete and a ritual, really, of recognizing that you are making progress, even if the end goal may be still a while off.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I call it the shake of the day, but it could be a cookie, it could be a steak, it could be whatever you like, but it's got to be something. You got to reward yourself. You must celebrate. Those celebration goals are very, very important.
Well, and going back to your metaphor of the bank, you can't pull from an empty account. And so while we really value the investments in ourselves from others, we also have to invest in ourselves too.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. I love that. Yeah, that hits home for me. Thank you for saying that.
So as we kind of come to the close of our conversation, would you share some advice that you would give to someone who is struggling to find purpose?
Okay. Yes. So I would like to say that an individual spends 24/7, 365 with themselves, right? So you know who you are, because you spend the most time with you than anyone else. So as we mentioned earlier about your purpose, it's something that you don't have to think about. It's like taking that next breath. Um, and because you spend so much time with yourself, it really is that peace that will come to you. It's like you always keep coming back to it. You always, so every time I'm on an airplane, for some reason, I always are telling someone to go get a PhD. Or every time, my son, anytime he has any free idle time, he's working on his music. So there's something that you will continue to come back to often, and it'll just be something that you'll do. But then when you take your purpose and then find your passion, your passion is that little bubbly thing that's in your stomach that's just like, I gotta do this. I really have to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know why I want to do this, but I have to do this. And so the intersection of your purpose and your passion is what I call the sweet spot. And that sweet spot is what I also like to call your higher destiny. And that's when you finally find what you were called here to be and what you're called here to do. And that's something that I wrote about in my book called Pursuing Your Higher Destiny. But that is definitely something that I always tell individuals as they're trying to chart their life is find something that you just enjoy doing, whether you got paid for it or not, then something that you want to do long term, which is your passion. And then when you find that, you will ultimately find your destiny.
I really, really appreciate that wisdom. Life is too short for us to not do the things that we were put on this planet to do.
That's right. That's right. Yes, absolutely. I thank you for even allowing me to even share some of these reflections because HKN has really revolutionized the way that I have been able to work with very, very smart people. So it's really cool to work with very, very smart, driven people, but more importantly, folks that are really passionate about STEM and advancing science. And so HKN has played such a pivotal role in my career. And then it also has given me the ability now to come back and tell the story. So thank you for allowing me, Amy, to come back and tell the story.
Well, I'm so grateful that you decided to really pour into us who are listening here today and really to give back in this way. I've got a whole page full of notes for myself, and I know that our listeners are also really going to benefit from this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm just a call or email away.
Thank you so much. If you're listening and you'd like to learn more from Dr. Huggins, you can find his book, Pursuing Your Higher Destiny, at Amazon, and we will be linking to that in the show notes. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to talking to you on our next episode.